Ladies and gentlemen, the Black Ops 6 multiplayer beta is here, and I'm going to give you my first impressions of the beta thus far. Keep in mind, this of course is very early first impressions. My opinions can definitely change over time, especially as they make more updates, but I played about 4 hours of it so far, and here are my thoughts. We'll get into the positives, then we'll get into the negatives, and yeah, let's get to it. First positive is that the maps are solid, and honestly, I was expecting this. It's Treyarch. They always make great maps in my opinion. And as for the beta currently, we only have 3 playable maps. They are going to be adding more maps throughout the weekend, and of course also with weekend 2. But so far we have Scud, which is the desert map with a giant satellite dish. And this map, in my opinion, is probably the worst of the maps so far, but it's still solid. It kind of reminds me of Satellite from Cold War, not only in terms of the look, but also just in terms of how it plays. It's more of a wide open map, so you can expect like ARs and sniper rifles to be a lot better on this map, and that's just not my style. I prefer the more close quarters maps that are a bit smaller. This map is actually pretty small, but it's just the overall like layout of it. It's more wide open, so snipers are going to be a lot better on it, but I personally still had fun playing, and I think it is a decently designed map. I just think it's definitely the weakest out of the ones they've added so far. Then of course they have Derelict, which a lot of people on Twitter right now are not happy with this map. They're saying it's bad. I don't understand what they're talking about. This map is great in my opinion. Actually, I might go as far as to say it's my favorite map in the beta so far. I can't even think of like any other map to compare it to in Call of Duty history, but I really enjoy it. It's got a 3-lane design, but it's a bit, you know, it's not like linear. It's not like a linear 3-lane map. It's very much a little messier in the middle, but it's messier in a way that's like fun and chaotic. It's definitely a very close quarters map. It's got a lot of crazy moments that you can have. People be jumping on like the trains and stuff and jumping across, diving, doing all their fun omni movement stuff. So I really like this map personally. I know some people don't, but I'm personally a big fan of it. Then there's Skyline, which is definitely the most anticipated map of this beta because it probably looks the best out of all the maps. The sunset by the pool looks gorgeous. This is a very standard 3-laned linear map, and I think it's probably going to be most people's favorite. I could see it being my favorite by the time the weekend ends, but right now I think I'm leaning towards Derelict, but Skyline is still amazing. There's this little like underground area of this map. Like it's not really underground because you're on a giant building, but there's this little like area that goes below the main part of the map, and it's a really cool like secret room, and there's this little button you can press which like activates a security mode and shuts down some of the doors on the map. Stuff like that is just so cool. I want more interactable features on the multiplayer maps. I think it just adds so much more life and personality to them, and I was messing around with it quite a bit, and it actually does change how the map plays quite a bit when you do activate the security lockdown. So definitely Treyarch, give us more stuff like this in the maps. It is really cool. Then of course we got to talk about the movement. I'm in love with the Omni movement. I think it feels really smooth. It's really fun. It's really interesting. It adds another layer to the skill gap, and even just the core movement, not even talking about the Omni movement, but even just the regular sliding and the drop shotting and the jumping and just how everything feels in revolving around the movement. It's fast, it's fluid, it does not penalize you too much. You're not like ruining your ADS speeds. I have not noticed ever having slow ADS speeds in this game thus far. It all feels amazing. It is probably one of the best movement Call of Duties of all time. I think it is the best in terms of the boots on the ground CODs, for sure. Like it just feels so good. It feels so smooth. Some people might get sick of it. They might get tired of the fact that everyone's diving around and sliding around, but you got to keep in mind that it is very new to people. They're trying it out for the first time. They're not really sure exactly how it works. So I'm sure over time it might change around a bit, but right now, yes, you're going to see a lot of people diving. You're going to see a lot of people sliding, but just kind of just keep up with the times. I don't know, like you gotta just kind of like get with what the new movement is and kind of get used to it, because that is kind of just what the faster movement Call of Duties go for. I understand some people don't like that, but Infinity Ward's game is coming out in 2 years. You guys can wait for that, because that game will definitely have slower movement most likely, but the movement here is fast and it's crazy, and I personally love that. So far, I think the gun balance is pretty good. I see a lot of people saying this gun's overpowered, this gun's overpowered. Like we always hear that with Call of Duty betas, and they might be right. I'm not really sure. I've used all the guns myself. I've tried them out at least once, and I feel like every gun is at least viable. There's maybe 1 or 2 guns that I didn't really get a great chance with, so I'm not exactly sure, but in terms of the ARs and SMGs especially, I think all of them are viable. I do think the AK-74 could definitely use a buff, but everything else I think was solid. I loved the C9, which is basically the MP5 in this game. That gun was incredible. Obviously, the Jackal PDW was really good. I think a lot of people are in love with that gun more than anything, and even the AIMs and the XM4, they're all really solid. We have a solid bunch of weapons here. None of them feel like so much worse than everything else. I do think there could be some tweaks here or there, but overall I think it definitely is a positive, at least right now. And the last positive I have here is the gunsmith. This is by far the best iteration of the gunsmith we've ever seen in Call of Duty, and it's only the beta because they finally understood that people don't like the fact that in the gunsmith systems previously, adding attachments makes your gun worse sometimes. That was such a frustrating thing about prior gunsmith systems. You felt like you were only adding attachments to try to negate the problems that were being caused with your gun by other attachments that you were adding. It was just such a frustrating system, but most of the cons are removed with this gunsmith system. If you actually look through all the attachments, only like 10% of the attachments actually have cons. 90% of them have 0 penalties. 0. They're only helping your gun, which is how it worked before MW 2019. It was always, you just choose attachments based on what you want for your gun. What new things do you want? What improvements do you want? But it wasn't about you having to worry about, oh my God, I'm making the gun so much worse. And I kind of prefer that. I think it's a lot more fun to customize things here. You're not worried about it all the time. You're not thinking, oh my God, I'm ruining the gun, I'm making it worse. You're only really making it better. So I really enjoy this system. I think it looks like a really solid gunsmith. There's also not 1,000 different attachments. There's a reasonable amount so you can look through them. You don't have to scroll through this endless, horizontal menu of it. It's so much better. I am definitely a big fan of the gunsmith system here, even though I still would prefer a pick 10 system. I would still prefer they find ways to make it more like pick 10, but I definitely think out of all the gunsmith systems we had, this is definitely the best one thus far. And getting into the negatives, I do have a couple of things I want to mention here, but I will say my positives are a lot bigger than my negatives are. I'm going to say a couple of things here, but most of these are kind of minor problems. Overall, I'm really enjoying this beta so far. The first thing is something I knew was going to be a problem, and obviously when they first announced it, I already was saying this is definitely going to be one of my biggest issues with the game, and this is the fact that the score streaks can't be looped in this game. If you're not sure what that means, it means once you earn all your streaks, you can't keep earning them in the same life. It kind of just stops you there and you have to die and then come back to start earning them again. I hate that. I'm going to always hate it. I want to be able to keep earning my streaks. If I'm good enough to go on that long of a streak, I deserve that. I feel like streak spam is not really as big of an issue as people are saying. There are so many things in this game that help you take out streaks or stop people from getting their streaks, and the streaks are already pretty hard to get actually. I've only gotten them a couple times so far in this game because they're actually not that easy to get. The UAV is more than 600 score to get. That is by far the most expensive UAV we've ever seen in a Call of Duty game. So there's really no reason to not let us be able to loop our streaks. I don't understand that decision. Hopefully they change it for the launch or maybe even for the second weekend of the beta. I'm really praying Treyarch listens because I feel like most people would be fine with the streaks being loopable. I don't think that many people are asking for them not to be loopable, but I'm not exactly sure. I'm speaking for myself here. I want them to be loopable. Another thing which is not really a concern with the full game, but just kind of with the beta now, why are there like no streaks in the game? There's 6 streaks they have. I don't remember the prior betas and how many streaks they had available, but I feel like it was always more than 6. There's just not enough, and 2 of them are different types of UAVs. So actually 3 technically, because you have a counter UAV. So there's not many streaks we get to mess around with currently, and I personally think that's kind of disappointing. I would love for there to be a lot more streaks to mess around with. I would love to try out the chopper gunner and some other streaks. Of course, I'm able to wait for launch, but I want to be able to test this stuff out now so we can get feedback on the different streaks to let them know if maybe they're just not great streaks in the game. I don't know how good they're going to be because we just can't really mess around with that many of them. The highest tier streak in the game right now is the Hellstorm missile. Like, that's kind of low, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I think it's a little weird. Hopefully there's a lot more streaks in the full game, and hopefully they add more throughout the beta and into the beta weekend too. Another thing is that I'm actually really disappointed with how they handled the stim shot in this game. So if you guys don't know what the stim shot is, it's essentially one of the tactical pieces of equipment, which essentially you're just healing yourself. So it's kind of like the BO4 stim. They brought that back in pretty much every COD since then, but as a piece of equipment, and you just heal yourself, right? And it's a pretty essential piece of equipment, I feel like. And in Cold War, they made it so if you run it, it recharges on its own. You don't need a special perk for it. You can just put it on your class and it will always recharge. So if you use it, it'll just take a little bit of time and you'll have another one available, right? This game does not have that. There is just, you get 2 of them, and if you put the perk on that recharges your equipment, you can recharge your equipment, but if you don't put that perk on, you can't do it. I don't want to have to be forced to use a perk to be able to do that, because I feel like that's just something that should be default with the stim shot, or else the stim shot kind of feels a little useless. Like, I don't really like it as much if it's just, you just get 2 of them per life. Like, if I go on a long streak, I'm not going to be able to use that many, you know what I mean? So I really hope they can change that and make it so it's rechargeable just by default. With this next piece of criticism, I want to be very clear that this one is definitely subject to change, because this is pretty common in most betas where the time to kill feels pretty inconsistent. Usually that's due to server issues and just the overall connection just not being very stable. I'm not sure if that's what's causing it, but I'm not like crazy about the time to kill in this game. I don't think it's bad. Trust me, I do not think it's a bad time to kill. It is a relatively slower time to kill, almost in the line of like Black Ops 3. That's what it feels like to me. It feels similar to Black Ops 3, which is a good time to kill. But I would prefer if it was just a smidge slower, like a little bit closer to what Cold War was. Just a smidge. It doesn't have to be a lot slower, but I think it just needs that extra push because there were so many moments in this game where I feel like I'm getting shot from the behind and I can't do anything about it because that's what fast time to kills are usually like, where you can't do much about it if someone shoots you in the back because it's pretty quick to the point where you kind of just get insta-killed. And I felt that a couple times in this game, and there's just nothing, again, there's nothing you can do about it. Other than people say, oh, you have to have awareness, you have to know they're behind you, but like, that's not how Call of Duty works. Call of Duty has very low recoil guns, people are spawning all over the place. You know, someone comes behind you, that has sometimes nothing to do with your map awareness. It's just simply the nature of Call of Duty. So when the time to kill is slower, it's able to help that a bit. So if someone does that, you have a chance to fight back. If they're not a great player and they're not hitting all their shots, you can turn around and kill them. Like, it's possible, right? Whereas I feel like sometimes when the time to kill is a bit faster, it's just straight up not possible. And especially with all the fast movement and stuff, I feel like a faster time to kill, it just doesn't really work that well. But again, it's not that fast. It's not like the time to kill is currently fast. It's just faster than I want it to be personally. It's definitely a minor critique, and it could be fixed just if they fix some of the connection problems a bit. Maybe the connection problems are causing inconsistency. I'm not sure, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. And the last negative I can say is there's just a lot of bugs and glitches and spawn problems, but I don't want to spend too much time talking about it because those things are like 100% going to be fixed. They're not things I feel like I have to sit here or talk about a bunch because at the end of the day, that's what a beta is for. They're here to test those things. I'm not going to hold it against the game because there's some bugs and glitches. That's inevitable. I just hope they can get them all fixed for the launch of the game. Overall, I'm really enjoying Black Ops 6 multiplayer so far. It is a lot of fun, and I will continue to play it a bunch, make more videos, and do more live streams. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Peace out, everyone.